Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is KJ here, and I am back to give you a draft analysis. This time for a league that I recently applied to and got accepted into. Shout out to the admins for that. I was really excited for this. It is a YouTube only league, or YouTube required league, I should say. So there will be required uploads. I believe they're going to be on Fridays. So that's really exciting. The league is the UPBA, otherwise known as the Unified Pokemon Battling Association. It's the second season of this league. There are 20 coaches, so happy to be one of the 20. And we are using the Draft League NL site, so you can see all of the other teams and sort of the stats and all of that on that website. And then I do want to just go through the draft sort of format really quick. So it is a points draft. We are allowed 10 to 12 mons, and as long as we're drafting within that limit of 120 points. We also could only draft 2 Pokemon that were in the 18 to 16 point range. So basically allows people to not necessarily have a super top heavy draft. And yeah, that was basically it. We did have pick 17, so we were pretty close to the end of the draft. And as you can expect, a lot of things that were like super busted in draft, like Dragapult and stuff like that, went super early. I think Dragapult was the number 1 pick. So yeah, this is gonna be my draft analysis. And I'll kind of go from there. I'm also going to make sure that I do have all of the other coaches' YouTube channels linked in the description, as well as the PRs for the draft and the draft stream VOD is when that gets uploaded. So I'll have all of that. But without further ado, let's get into things. So at pick 17, I was not sure what was going to come to me. I was looking at things like Tapu Lele as we started getting later into the first round, and then that got scooped up. And I was thinking, I was just like, what's a mon that I've really wanted to use that I haven't really gotten a chance to use in the 18 to 16 point range? And so I was thinking, and it was funny because I was coming off of a 3 to 5 game span where I had faced a variation of this mon every game. And so the first mon that I ended up picking was Landorus Therian. So spent 18 points, so as you can see, I have 102 points left. And Lando T is just such a good mon. It's been a staple in just about every format it's been in. I mean, I played VGC for a while, so it was a staple in the VGC formats that it was allowed because of Intimidate mostly, but it just has a really good typing. Ground flying is just very, very good. And then in OU, it's generally been just an absolute demon. Like, it's always sort of at the higher end of the usage, just because it has access to rocks, it has access to defog, it has access to like ground stab. Like Earthquake is one of the best moves in the game. And it also just, again, is able to pivot out on things. It has great coverage. Like, obviously Edgequake is really good. The one big problem that I think I have with Lando is that it doesn't have great reliable flying stab. Like, it gets fly, I believe, which isn't great, but even like in Gen 7, people were running like the Flyinium Z with fly, so that way they could nuke things. So I think this pick was really solid. I was really happy to see Lando fall to me at 17. And I was just like, okay, I can deal with this. I mean, Lando's a very good mon, and if it's on my team, I don't have to deal with it. So next, I wanted to get something that could pair with it really well. I figured if I'm gonna sort of have Lando, even though it's a very good sort of like glue mon and can play so many different roles, I wanted to get another mon that could do something similar. And the mon that I ended up deciding to get was actually a mon that made a really good partner with Lando, especially in Gen 6. So that mon is Rotom Wash. And it's funny because after I drafted Rotom Wash, someone actually commented and they were just like, oh, that's a Gen 6 core. are we playing Gen 6 all of a sudden? And that also, I think that also came up in the draft stream. So yeah, Rotom Wash, another defogger. Gen 8, Rotom Wash gets access to Nasty Plot, which is great. So it can be a setup mon, and it can be a little bit scarier on the offensive side. Water, Electric is just a really good typing, and the fact that it has Levitate means that it's only weak to grass. It has access to most forms of status with Will-O-Wisp, T-Wave, and Toxic, so that's great. And it just gives like another solid means of momentum. Right now, both Lando and Rotom are like middling speed tiers with at 86 and 91, and so that's really good. But another thing is they're also both pretty good scarfers, so I can slap a choice scarf on them if I need to. But overall, I just wanted a bulky core that I could use as like a Volt Turn core, with Lando getting access to U-Turn and Rotom getting access to Volt Switch. And yeah, I think I'm really excited for that because this was like the perfect start for me, I think. So fast forward to round 3. I was actually looking at Jirachi for a long time, and then Jirachi got sniped on the wheel at the top. So it's a funny story. I got sniped on that wheel 3 times. I think that was really those were the only times I really got sniped in this draft. It's just that when I got sniped, I had to change my plan around and everything, but that's beside the point. The person that sniped me, he made a pretty good team, so I can't blame him. But yeah, so Jirachi got taken, so I was thinking, and I was just like, what is a mon I really want to use and can kind of go well with this team? So the next mon that I ended up drafting was Zarude. Zarude is one of the newest Pokemon that's been released, and it's gotten different levels of acceptance, and like people have been excited about it. Some people have hated it. When it first came out, I thought it was going to be really cool. It does not get access to knockoff, which is unfortunate, but it does have a really good move pool, and it does get access to U-Turn. It also has reliable recovery with its move Jungle Healing. So Jungle Healing allows it to basically get rid of any status and also recover 25% of its HP, which is awesome. You'll see bulk up sets, you'll see it be choiced. Overall, like, it has pretty good bulk. The one thing that you can kind of knock it for, again, is being a dark type and not having knockoff. Being 4 times weak to bug, which is unfortunate because of the fact of how prevalent U-Turn is in singles, and not having a good ability. Its ability is Leaf Guard, which is pretty useless, but it hits hard. It has momentum, and it kind of just fits the rest of the theme of like what I've got going on, where I've got like bulky momentum, and this is something that I really liked, especially because I was thinking about a couple of things going forward, and I was like, okay, these things like kind of work well with me being able to kind of get stuff out with momentum and whatnot. So I was really happy, and Zarude gives me a mon that's over base 100, so it kind of patches up speed tiers pretty nicely. And yeah, so the next pick, I was thinking, and again, I wanted Jirachi before, and so Jirachi got taken, so I figured, why not go with a mon that shares Jirachi's typing? So I grabbed Metagross. And so Metagross is nice here because Metagross gives me a Steel type, which is one of the most important types in draft. It provides so many resistances. And having a Steel Psychic type is good because it's just even more resistances that it provides. I also love the fact that Metagross has a ton of setup options, which, I mean, I have Bulk Up Zarude, I have Nasty Plot Rotom, and there's like Swords Dance and Rock Polish Lando sets, but Metagross gives me something that's a little bit more reliable, especially because like people run like the agility weakness policy sets, which are really good, and with Metagross's just natural bulk, a lot of times it can live super effective hits. So I really like having Metagross on the team, and again, it gives me another rocker alongside Lando, and just another bulky Mon. So right now, my team is incredibly bulky, and so and it's also incredibly physically offensive. Like Metagross, Sarud, Lando hit really hard on the physical side. So I wanted to then pick up something that was good on the special side. And so this is where the next snipe came in, because I wanted to grab Keldeo. Keldeo was a mon that I was like, okay, I'm really excited to use Keldeo. I know I'd be doubling up on water types, but that's okay. Like, having a bulky water and an offensive water, totally fine. But that didn't happen. Keldeo got sniped on the wheel. Really sad about that. So I had to sort of pivot a little bit, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of shore up my top end speed and also get another removal option. That way I don't have to be running Defog on Lando and Defog on Rotom. So the next mon that I picked up was Noivern. And so with Noivern, it's incredibly fast. It has a passable, I think, 97 special attack stat. And with that, I'm able to basically use Noivern to like click moves like Boom Burst and Draco Meteor, which have really high actual base attacks, or like base powers, to basically just do a lot of damage. There's a ton of things. Like Noivern can be run offensively with things like Specs. I've seen Scarf sets. I've seen like the Throat Spray set with Boom Burst. It can also be run very defensively. Like, it loves Heavy Duty Boots. Like, Heavy Duty Boots is an item that now that exists, like, it's not taking chip every time it comes in on Stealth Rocks, and it's a very good defogger. So, and it also gives more momentum, which is nice. And yeah, overall, I really liked having something like Noivern on the team. Speed is so important in these drafts, especially in these 20-person drafts. Like, I've been in 20-person drafts where my fastest mon was a base 110, and it was rough. Like, Noivern just gives so much, and it is a dragon, so I'm now sort of in a good spot to shore up my Fairy Dragon Steel Core, which again is one of the more necessary cores in draft. But I do want to get into my next pick, and this is a mon I was actually really excited for, Arcanine. So anyone that knows me knows I do love Arcanine. It's one of my favorite Gen 1 mons outside of Jolteon. And again, Heavy Duty Boots, absolutely huge for Arcanine. So Arcanine can come in on rocks. It does have reliable recovery, even though I believe Morning Sun only has APP. It can be run very bulky. It creates a Intimidate core with Lando T. So now I have Arcanine Lando T, and that is a very, very good Intimidate core. Two mons that can come to a lot of games. It has ways to punish the water types with Wild Charge. It does get access to things like Play Rough and Close Combat. So really excited about that. And I mean, it can be run physically or specially. So I think at this point, I'm in a situation where I have some flexibility. I don't have a true special breaker yet. And that is something that I identified that I definitely need to get, just because like I have so many mons that are like super physical that I want to make sure that I can really break on the special side. So if you notice, I do only have 42 points left, so I realized that like I needed to start taking some lower point mons, but I also wanted to make sure that I got the mon that I wanted that was in the 16 to 18 point tier, because I still have another mon that I could take in that tier. So I decided with my next pick I was actually going to take a mon that I've always wanted to use, and I used it in my very first season of draft, and that is Diancie, as you can see on the screen. And Diancie is great because it's a reliable rocker. It's pretty low tier. I mean, 6 points is pretty budget, just in general. And it's a fairy type. I needed that. And if you look at my team, like, I have Lando, I have Noivern. My steel type is not weak to fighting, it's only neutral. So I didn't really need my fairy to be a fighting resist. And so DNC kind of fit perfectly because, again, it gives me another rocker. It has clear body, which is great because it doesn't have its stats lowered. It's very defensive. It can be offensive. Don't sleep on DNC being offensive. Like, it also gets access to things like rock polish, which it's really nice. Like, overall, I'm really liking the sort of feel of the team. Just looking at things, and I'm not in a spot where I felt like I had like glaring weaknesses to this point. And again, like, I was looking at it and I was like, okay, what kind of fairies could I take? Unfortunately, with like, if I were looking at this team and it was like Nat decks, I might have considered something like Grand Bowl, and I think that was mentioned in the PRs as well. So take a look at that. Unfortunately, that is a mon that isn't available. That would have given me a nice like intimidate core with the 3 mons, but anyway, I digress. DNC, really cool. It gets access to some really cool moves. I mean, Diamond Storm is a great move, and Rock plus Fairy Stab is really good. It also gives me another flying resist, which is something that I feel like is always good to have. Just thinking about it, like, generally speaking, flying, ice, and ground are usually some types that are really common to be weak to in draft. So I wanted to make sure that I did have some flying resists so that I had switch-ins to some of the things like Torn Tea and stuff like that. So anyway, I'll move on to the next pick, which is my special breaker finally. So I did draft Kiram. Kiram's awesome. I've never gotten to use it in draft. I did, in my first season of draft, also have Kiram Black. So that was Gen 7, obviously, Z-move format, all that good stuff. But Kiram is incredible. This gen, getting access to Freeze Dry, getting access to physical dragon, or physical ice move, sorry, in Icicle Spear, like having DD, it just, man, Kiram has so much in its arsenal. It's one of the premier special breakers. I did double up and go double dragon. That's fine because generally speaking, these 2 dragons are playing a completely different role. Like, Kiram is incredibly bulky, so it's not necessarily going to be run defensively. It's going to have more of an offensive presence, especially on this team where, again, it is one of my better options, specially, if not even one of my better. It is my best option, specially. And so, yeah, I think I'm really excited to use this. I'm going to be really happy with how Kiram performs, I think. Like, if I had to look at this team, even just right now, I would say I would expect Kiram to be my kill leader, but who knows? We'll see. Again, really great mon. It has access to a whole slew of things, and because even though this is a Galar Dex league, we do have access to the earlier gen moves, so it even has access to some like sub-roost sets, stuff like it has access to roost, it has access to toxic, things like that. So really excited about Kiram. Yeah, there's not a whole lot more I can say about this. I don't want to spoil anything, but yes, Kiram, very excited about this mon. It's going to be a lot of fun to use. It's always really hard for me to prep for. So yeah, so looking at the team, I have 20 points left and potentially 4 slots. I at least have to take 2 more mons. So I was kind of looking at things and I realized I didn't have a grounded poison. I realized I was missing a fighting type. I also realized that I didn't have a normal type, and normal type is really key in my opinion just because of the fact that things like Spectre are running around, and like you obviously want to have a good dark type and a good normal type. So I wanted to make sure that I had that. So with my next pick, I did cover obviously one of those. And this is another mon that I've wanted to use a lot and just haven't gotten the opportunity to. So I got Passimian, and it's funny because at the time of drafting, I hadn't used it a lot. But I've actually drafted Passimian in a couple of different places now. So yeah, it was one of those mons where I was like, man, I really want to use Passimian. Passimian's really cool. Like, it has access to Defiant. And then I drafted it, and then I actually had it on it. I had it on a team, but it hadn't come to a lot of games, and it actually came to multiple games since then in that league. And then I've also drafted it somewhere else. So it's really funny that I was like, my thinking behind drafting Passimian was, man, I really want like a lower tier fighting type that I haven't used that I really want to use. And then I drafted Passimian, and now it's become sort of a staple in some of my drafts. So really funny. But anyway, talking about Passimian, really good move pool. Has access to U-turn, which is nice. Again, like the ability to pivot, like having that momentum is something that I really appreciate. It is a fighting type that can punish things that it's weak to. It has knockoff for the psychic types. It also has gunk shot for the fairies, so that's really cool. It is a very good choice user, and so just looking at my team, I really like the ability to like have scarfers for speed control, as well as just like the speed tiers. Like, looking at things, I mean, I do have two base 95s and the base 91 in Lando, but I have like 86 and 80. The NC is 50. There's Noivern, which is 123, I believe. Metagross is 70. Zarude's 105. Like, these speed tiers are really solid. I think ideally I would like to have something to bridge the gap between 123 and 105, like the Noivern and Zarude, but still got 3 slots left, so we'll see what I end up doing. But anyway, the biggest thing about Passimian, I think, that I love is the fact that it has Defiant. So obviously I have 2 Intimidate mons on my team, and 2 of the more prevalent Intimidate mons in draft, but if somebody brings something that has Intimidate, like, Passimian immediately becomes that much more threatening. Also webs. If somebody sets webs against my team, Passimian has a very good webs matchup because it comes in and it immediately gets +2 boost in attack. So Defiant is really scary, and that is actually usually a deterrent for people to bring webs. They might bring webs still. I'll be able to play around them. I mean, I have a ton of ways to remove those, but Passimian's just another deterrent. And yeah, so I'm looking at this team and I'm really enjoying it. I have 3 rockers. I have 3 reliable defoggers. I don't necessarily want to be running defog on Lando all the time, or Rotom for that matter, like especially if I'm going with a more offensive build. And I mean, they kind of enable each other to one run defog, one not, and same thing with Noivern. Like, Noivern can be offensive, but I see it fitting more of a defensive role on this team, especially because I have Karam. But anyway, 13 points left, 3 picks potentially. With this next pick, I wanted to make sure that with these next 2 picks, actually, I wanted to make sure that I got a little bit more speed and I got more hazards. And with those hazards, I wanted to make sure that they were particularly T-spikes, just because I wanted to make sure I had a grounded poison that could also set T-spikes. So with my next pick, I grabbed Quillfish. So Quillfish is really cool. It's, again, another mon that I've wanted to use for a while. It has access to Poison Point and Intimidate, so a 3rd Intimidate mon, which is really solid, especially if we're running into a situation where there's a physical attacker that's like really, really scary. It also gets access to Swift Swim, which I think there's a rain team out there. I'm trying to remember. I think there is a rain team, so it is potentially like a counter rain matchup. So that's cool, but that's not what I drafted it for. It's a poison type. It gets access to spikes. It gets access to T spikes. It gets a lot of really cool moves. Like, it's a water type that isn't an electric type that gets T-Wave, so that's really cool. It gets things like Destiny Bond, like, and it can also be offensive. Like, it has 2 pretty decent stab combinations in water poison. Like, the fact that poison beats fairies is pretty huge. So having another way to take care of those really annoying fairies, which again, like, some things on my team really appreciate. Kiram, Noivern, Passimian, Zarude, like, they really appreciate being able to deal with fairies. So, and being able to be sort of physical or special. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not necessarily, it's a physical attacker, but it can run things like Scald, which again, if you are facing something that's like really weak specially, then that can do something. But Quillfish is not wowing anyone with its special attack. Like, it's basically like 55 or 60, so it can be I've seen it run specially, but again, that's gonna mean that there's a lot of investment. And yeah, but anyway, Quillfish is a cool mon. Really, I drafted it for the fact that it's a grounded poison and the hazards. But yeah, we'll kind of we'll see how it plays out. It's a mon that a lot of people that I know love, and I just never have been able to draft it either. So, and that's kind of the theme, especially with the last 3 picks. Kiram, Passimian, and Quillfish were all mons that I feel like I've always wanted to use in draft. Never really got to draft them. Obviously, I told the story about Passimian where I've now gotten to draft it more, it feels like. But overall, those 3 mons are mons that I've always wanted to use, and now I'm getting a chance. So yeah, so I have 7 points left. I needed to decide if I wanted a 7-point mon or if I wanted to kind of split this. I was looking at the board and looking and seeing there weren't really a lot of speed options. It's funny because in one of my close circles of friends, I think people always think about 2 specific mons as like low tier speed, and those mons are Ambipom, which everybody knows I'm not a huge fan of, but I've warmed up to it. But Ambipom is not in Galar decks, so I decided to go with the other mon, and that is Cinccino. So Cinccino is really cool. Again, a mon that has a couple of pretty cool abilities, Technician and Skill Link. So Technician, obviously, it's just moves that have really low base powers are hitting harder, 1.5 times harder. So, and then Skill Link, this thing gets access to Bullet Seed, Rock Blast, Tail Slap, all moves that are become 5-hit moves with Skill Link, so that's really cool. We'll have to watch out for things like Rocky Helmet, just because like that's generally how you chip down a Skill Link mon, like having Rocky Helmet and basically switching it in on like a pretty obvious Tail Slap or something like that is something that people will do. But yeah, Cinccino also gets access to knock off Play Rough and U-Turn. So again, another mon with momentum. I can't stress it enough. I absolutely love momentum. Like, just looking at the team, Lando T with U-Turn, Rotom Wash with Volt Switch, Zarude with U-Turn, Noivern with U-Turn, Arcanine with Teleport. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. Arcanine does get Teleport. Thank you. Let's go Pikachu and Eevee. Which, that was... I'm still indifferent about the contribution of those games to the meta. Teleport is... Them buffing Teleport in that game or them buffing Teleport in Gen 8 was kind of bad in my opinion. I'm not a big fan of it, but I have it. Diancie gets Baton Pass, which Dry Pass is legal, so that's good. And yeah, now Cinccino gets U-Turn, so it's really good. Really excited about Cinccino. It also gets access to Triple Axle, I believe, so that's really cool. Overall, this is a cool mon. It does lose access to Return in Gen 8, but that's all good. Yeah, so at the end, I had 1 point, and I wanted to take a mon that I could potentially bring to a game. I don't necessarily know if it's going to come to a game. I'm used to doing 11 mon drafts, and so the fact that I had 1 point extra and this is my 12th mon was like, okay, this is cool. So with that last pick, I did grab Morgrem. Um, it's another fairy, but like again, it's not wowing anyone with its 60 attack and 75 special attack. It's passable. It is base 70 speed. I think my speed tiers were pretty patched up to begin with. Like Cinchino really patched things up, giving me something in between 123 and 105. So having a duplicate base 70 wasn't that big of a deal. Really what Morgan Grant gives you is Prankster. Prankster is really cool, and it also gives me another Mon with Frisk, the other one being Noivern. And yeah, I mean, Prankster screens are really cool. Prankster T-Way is really good. Prankster Taunt. It gets access to a handful of things, and it is pretty bulky. Like, it can, with a Violite, it can be a little annoying if having a Violite. I mean, it's still not great, but it can take some hits. So yeah, so this is the squad. This is your Cleveland Indeedees for the UPBA Season 2. Really excited. At the time of this video going up, I think it'll be close to a week before my week 1 match goes up. So we are playing Goki Gamer, and I can't remember the exact team name, but his logo is the really cool Metacham logo in the bottom. So yeah, really excited to get this season underway. A lot of really great coaches. I mean, everyone here is a great coach. I shouldn't even say a lot of. Everyone here is a great coach, and really excited to play the coaches here. I've seen quite a lot of their YouTube content, and it's going to be fun. So with that, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you like the content, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm pushing to 100 followers or subscribers. So yeah, we'll be back, like I said, every Friday with UPBA content, and I hope you stick along for the ride. Hopefully we can make some noise and do some work. So with that, I'm gonna be out of here. Take it easy, everybody. Peace.